You want to start us off with an opening statement, and then we'll take questions?
Well, that's a big win to complete a 3-game homestand to start MAC play. When we got the schedule this year, when we looked at it, we felt fortunate to be able to start with a young team at home. At the same time, we knew the pressure that built on us to get off to a good start, and for us to start 3-0 at home and protect home court. That was a huge task for us and a huge goal behind the scenes with this program, and we did a good job focusing one game at a time. In terms of tonight's game, I'm really pleased for the second night in a row we held the team to their lowest point total of the year. And that doesn't just happen. I'm proud of a young team that's learning how we scout, their attention to detail, and trying to carry through the defensive game plan throughout the night. Now, we weren't perfect, but we really accomplished some of the things that we wanted to defensively. And so for the second night in a row in MAC play, holding a team to their lowest output of the year, it is something that behind the scenes we can take pride in and continue to grow from. Offensively, we were better in stretches. At the same time, again, we didn't shoot the ball particularly well from the arc, just kept begging them, and sure enough, we made 3 threes roughly in the last 5 minutes of the game, or roughly in that stretch where we needed it the most, and Jasmine Matthews stepped up and made a couple big ones, and Chrissy Steffen finished off another set play with a nice 3. So it really broke the game open, a tight game that you thought was going to come down to the wire potentially.
We haven't seen a coat toss like that since Dockich was here. Why were you so excited tonight?
This game was a big game. We have a lot of respect for OU. We feel how dangerous they are despite a couple recent injuries. Again, Bob Lindsay, the mentor of a lot of us in this league, and certainly the old-time coach, says not always the best team wins this league, it's the healthiest team wins this league. And OU has had 2 recent injuries to starters, but we still felt like they were very, very dangerous. And I felt like our execution, we really focused on execution and trying to take that next step. And part of that was deciding what defense they were in, not being fooled by switching defenses, and then executing those defenses. And I felt at times we didn't use time and score correctly. We didn't get into things smoothly. And my demand for perfection, again, continues to push this team to get even better. But that's a big win for us tonight.
You mentioned your defense, and you were focusing on Benson, obviously. You used maybe at least 3 different players at her at times. How would you rate the overall effort on her?
We made her work for her attempts. That we knew we weren't going to contain her. She was going to get her points. She's just too good of a one-on-one player, and OU does such a great job of putting their good one-on-one players in position to have space to play that. They allow their players to go make plays, but they create that spacing with their sets. And we knew we weren't going to contain her all night. She was going to make some contested shots and make tough shots, but our goal was to make her take a lot of attempts to get those. So we're shooting roughly in that 33% range. We felt like we accomplished that. And then the other thing is she can have nights like Lauren Prohaska at the foul line. I think she's made 30 in a row at one point this season already. So we wanted to keep her off the line. For us to only put her at the line 4 times was a big goal too.
Curt, will you talk a little bit, coming out of that 7:38 media, that's where you guys kind of took command of the game. What was the focus out of that timeout?
Ironically, we talked about that we had to stay aggressive, but we felt like if we stayed aggressive, that because we hadn't shot the 3 very well all night, that it was still going to open up some opportunities at the arc, that they were eventually going to make mistakes because we weren't scoring from out there. And so we challenged the team to continue to have 5 kids on the floor, that if it was their shot from the 3-point line, they were going to have to take it. And so that was where we were a little bit more aggressive, hunting for shots from the 3-point line. A couple of those we probably had to take because the shot clock was winding down, but they had the courage and guts to step up and make those. And then getting back to what we did right out of halftime. The first 3 possessions of the second half, we executed with a tempo. We were determined drivers, but we executed at a tempo that we could be successful at. And we scored 3 straight baskets out of halftime. And we talked about that again, about finding our tempo that we can be successful at, not letting them make us play too fast, and not rushing our execution, that we're finishing our job. Whatever your job is, screening, attacking, spacing, whatever your job is, to do your job. And find that tempo that we really came out of halftime focused and had those first 3 possessions, and all of a sudden it went from 3 to 9 in a hurry, and all of a sudden you had breathing room.
Those early 3-point attempts that you were talking about, those open shots, it's interesting that they came to a freshman in Matthews who took them and made them. Will you just talk a little bit about having a freshman with I'll use your word, the guts to step up and take and make that 3?
Well, she's shown us moxie all year. I mean, she doesn't shy from the moment. She's been outstanding at the defensive end, but she's a kid that's shooting the ball well percentage-wise for us, and we want her to be a little bit more selfish at times and let it go. A lot of kids make open shots. The special players make guarded shots, and she makes guarded shots in practice. And so, we're challenging her to take some shots that seem a little bit contested in the game, because we believe they can go in. And one of her 3s was deep. She isn't typically that deep, but again, had the moxie, had the guts to step up there and take that.
You really rode your starters today. Everybody 28 minutes or more. And then the second part, then maybe you can answer. At the end of the game, though, you had Pastor on the floor to control the tempo. You just talked about thinking of using the starters that much, and then at the end of the game.
Yeah, I kept on looking at the time and score, and tried at media timeouts if I could squeeze a minute, 2 minutes in and there, and then by the time I hesitated, the time was gone to use the media timeout and maybe a little breather before that for some of the starters. And so some of that is not by design. That was a little bit of hesitation, but I really believe in that starting group's defensive ability. Some of the kids that come off the bench offensively are really, really talented, but I felt we were dialed in defensively in the second half. We only gave up 7 field goals, and it was really, really hard for me to pull the trigger to go with maybe some of the kids off the bench that are talented offensively, but at times will make a mistake defensively, or just not as talented as some of the starters. So it was more of a defensive call tonight, because I felt like we were really dialed in the second half defensively.
And then Pastor at the end was just to control the ball.
Chrissy got really tired, and so we put her in, and right away, Logan gave me confidence as an extra ball handler out there. It was just, we decided pretty quickly it didn't look like OU was going to foul us. They were going to play out the clock, so having an extra ball handler was key. And frankly, Chrissy at times has struggled at the foul line this year. So, if they did start to foul us, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. But the extra ball handling was important, and I thought she got us into some stuff offensively at a tempo that we could be successful at.
Will you talk a little bit about your rebounding, especially the second half, and especially on the offensive boards?
We were down at rebounding at halftime, I believe, and we challenged the team. Through this stretch run of wins, we have out-rebounded our opponents 8, now 9 times in a row, and we thought, if we're going to miss some layups that we think we're capable of making, if we're going to miss some shots, that this is a team that has to play 4 guards now, and where they might be quicker at us, quicker than us, we could try to keep being physical and get those big rebounds when we needed it. And our kids really believe right now in rebounding. It's the first team that we've had that's had this kind of streak in rebounding. I wouldn't even challenge Mike to go find that stat, because I promise you, we haven't out-rebounded in my 10 years a team 9 times, a team out-rebounding 9 times in a row. So I'm proud of them that way, but it was a big story because we shot over 40% for the game. 43% is very respectable, but we missed some shots we're certainly capable of making, and those extra opportunities led to good things. We almost doubled them up on second chance points.
There was a time in the first half where you were defending pretty hard out there. Is this one of those games where you felt like you were out there playing a little bit? Were you a little tired after this one?
I am. You know, we can get a little bit in terms, we never term it this way because I feel like you give your kids the ability that the common defense that people play around the country is pack line defense with Dick Bennett. But pack line defense also gets labeled as sagging man. And we're not going to press 94 feet very often, but I want to be aggressive man-to-man. And we hadn't turned a team over 18 or more times for 6 straight games. And after the first, how many games have we played now? 16? After the first 9 games of the year, 8 of the first 9 games of the year, we turned people over 18 or more times. And that's our goal on our goal board in our locker room. And we went 6 straight games without turning people over. We believed that with some pressure, we could turn this team over. And we got that accomplished, barely, but we got that accomplished. We got to our goal number tonight to turn OU over 18 times.
Any other questions? If I can be stat boy for just a second, it's actually 11 games in a row we've not rebounded the other team, but
All right.
your point is still very valid. Thank you, Coach.